little bit of a dip here, but you know, that's stuff you got to deal with when you're doing U-turns. What is going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel, or welcome to the channel, whichever one. Today I'm going to be showing you guys how to complete a good U-turn, how to perfect your U-turn on your motorcycle, right? So a couple reasons a U-turn is important. Most namely, the first one is if you have to turn around abruptly on the street, you know, you come on a dead end, whatever it may be, you get a phone call, wife's pregnant, going into labor, whatever, you know, you have to turn around abruptly on the street. It has happened before. Sometimes I've done it by choice. Sometimes I've actually had to turn around. Whatever it may be, you're eventually going to need to know how to do a U-turn. And specifically, what we're going to be talking about in this video is slow speed U-turns. Slow speed U-turns. The second reason they're important is it helps you with your balance. It helps you learning the inner workings of how your bike moves, how it balances, you know, how your body position affects the balance of the bike. Overall control of the motorcycle while it's leaned over or in a leaned position. That's something that completing these slow speed U-turns is going to help you with. So that's a good couple reasons why they're important. As I mentioned, this is going to be slow speed U-turns, and so the difference between the two is slow speed U-turns actually require a little bit more finesse than just doing like a wide angle 180 degree turn, because everybody can do those. I mean, that's basically you just do a regular turn for long enough and you've done technically a U-turn. But we're talking about small speed U-turns within like a tight space like this. So you want to realistically be able to do this. I believe there's a DOT standard per each state, a DOT standard, but I believe it's basically the width of a normal city street. So like, I think like this concrete part here is about a perfect representation. It's going to end up being a little bit smaller, especially for your DOT test, the width, but from like where this makeshift sidewalk ends right here, all the way to where like that sidewalk starts over there, where that like step up on that concrete is. So about that width. Obviously when you're practicing these, start wider and then narrow it down. So get somewhere where you have plenty of room. If you have just an open concrete patch, use cones. Cones are a good way. If you don't have cones, use whatever the hell, empty water bottles, full water bottles, who gives a shit? But use whatever you can to place some markers so you know where you should be completing that U-turn within. I don't have them today. I just kind of go off of sight nowadays. I'm confident enough in doing them, so I don't really need to practice getting them as tight as possible. I know I can do it within the DOT standard, and pretty much on any city street I'd feel comfortable turning around, doing a slow speed U-turn on. So enough said, let's get into the technique. So the difference between a slow speed and a high speed maneuver is going to come down to counter steering. So if you're not unfamiliar with the counter steering, basically above a certain mile per hour, about 10, 12-ish or whatever, counter steering then comes into effect, right? So counter steering, when you say I'm going 20 miles an hour, if I want to turn left, I'm going to push forward on the left side of my handlebars. That's going to turn my wheel to the right side of the bike. It's going to force my wheel towards the right side of the bike, which then shifts the center of gravity of the bike to the left side, allowing me to take the bike into what is called a controlled lean. And so you're essentially letting the bike fall over, you're forcing the bike to fall over, and then you're controlling that lean as you move into the turn, right? So that's counter steering, basic. That's not the purpose of this video, but slow speed U-turns do not require counter steering. So what we're going to be doing today for a slow speed U-turn is actually one for one using the handlebars to turn the bike, right? So if I want to go left in this example, when I'm going below 10 miles an hour-ish, I'm going to actually turn my handlebars left, because counter steering is not in effect yet, because we're not going fast enough. We're doing slow speed U-turns. So that's step one. You are going to have to turn the bike. Step two is you're going to have to balance yourself while you complete the turn. So once you've turned the handlebars, the bike is going to want to turn, right? It's going to lean over. it's going to start to turn, right? But then you have to incorporate balance into that, because if you just do this and try and just shift your handlebars, you're going to lose balance pretty quickly, right? It's going to be difficult to maintain yourself if you don't focus on it specifically. So the way I like to think about this is, I'll actually get off the bike to show this a little bit. Once you start turning, you're saying, oh man, I'm kind of dirty from the, I shouldn't have gone over that water patch. Anyways, once you start turning, taking a left turn, we'll say on our slow speed U-turn here, you're gonna have to shift your body the opposite direction of which you're turning, right? And you can physically get your ass off the seat and move it over a little bit. So say I'm sitting right here, and when I go to turn left on my slow speed turn, I'm realistically gonna shift my rear end almost off to the side of the bike like this. I'm gonna bring my weight to this side of the bike, and the reason for that is because the bike is gonna wanna fall this way, so I have to counterbalance the weight with my body weight, putting it this way. That's the best way I can describe it. You can kind of keep your ass in the same spot and just lean your upper torso to the side. That also works, but as you get more developed with it, you're gonna have to incorporate more drastic weight transfers, we'll call them. Because once you start doing sharper turns, you're gonna have to counterbalance even more with even more weight, right? So the more you lean the bike, the more you're gonna have to move your body and shift it over to the side. So let's do a quick example. This is how it's going to look from first person, right? I'll try and get some third person shots as well so we can see it from the outside. But basically, you want to start slow. I'm going to kind of just sit in the friction zone, and then I'm going to turn my handlebars. And right now, just like that, I'm not really moving my rear end very much. Turning the handlebars. I'm just kind of shifting my weight because I'm not going super tight right now, so I don't necessarily have to shift my weight too much, but I am shifting my weight. Right now, I kind of am just, the way I'll describe it is I'm kind of just putting more of the weight on my right cheek. Okay, that's realistically, that's all I'm doing. So I'm turning the handlebars, bike's leaning, putting the weight on the other side of the bike. So usually when you turn, you're gonna, like doing a normal turn, you're gonna end up leaning your body with the bike. This time you're gonna do the opposite. You're gonna kind of keep yourself upright and turn your weight to the opposite side of the bike, because that allows you to keep the bike balanced. See, I'm nice and smooth right now. Just sitting in the friction zone here. I'm trying to lean the bike pretty far right now, and all I'm doing is shifting my weight to the other side, because if I bring my weight back here, I'm starting to lose balance. Okay, so let's use this reflection as a little bit of help here. So when I turn my bike to do my left turn, I hope this shows up in the camera, we'll see. When I turn my bike to do the left turn, I'm almost shifting myself over to this side. And that's the counterbalance we want to see, okay? Same thing on the other side. Say if I do a right turn, I'm going to shift it to the side. You're almost like sitting off the bike. Like not actually, but you're like kind of almost sitting off the bike a little bit. In a way, I like to kind of feel for this, get a like a grasp of this, is that when I'm doing this, my eyesight is like almost shifted. Like normally we're lined up with the motorcycle here, with the windscreen, with the speedometer, but when I turn, I'm shifting myself over, so I'm seeing like a side view almost of my windscreen and my speedometer. Okay, and that's something I notice when I'm doing that. I'm not necessarily saying that you have to like shift your perspective, but I've noticed that does help me a little bit. And so just something to keep in mind as you're practicing. Oh, I ran over a little plastic cup. Damn. So my next tip is, obviously, if you're unfamiliar with like if you're not comfortable using your friction zone and good throttle control at these slow speeds, I would practice that first. Just do kind of this little 3 mile an hour, 4 mile an hour stuff where you can use a little bit of throttle, get comfortable using the clutch, you know, understand when you need to pull the clutch in. If you accidentally give too much throttle, pull that clutch back in. You know, get throttle and clutch control before you start practicing this stuff. But then all it is, simple little counterbalance. It's realistically all it is. I'll do a couple right ones so you guys believe me that I can do the right-handed ones as well. I'm not as good at the right-handed ones. I'll be completely honest. My right-handed turns are worse than my left. And then once you get fairly comfortable doing this, you can start just doing these little circles. See how tight of a donut you can get without having to put a foot down, right? Good practice. Do some figure eights. It's very fun actually to do this kind of stuff. You could just do these little figure eights. It's fun to transition between the two. And see, I even still struggle with this. These are very difficult maneuvers. Let's be completely honest. This is one of the hardest things to learn when you're starting to ride a motorcycle. You just have to practice it. Take it slow. Be ready to put your foot down if you need to. Oh no, we got a cop here. Okay, good. I thought he was actually gonna come say something to me. Luckily, he's a nice fella. Okay, I'm gonna try and get some third-person shots of this. Some not third-person, but some outside perspective shots of this, so we can get a better idea of how they look from the outside, and hopefully that helps. Before we go on to those, I will make one last note I was just thinking of while I was doing those here. If you see my body position in the reflection here, right before I start that turn, I'm almost like going to the outside, the opposite way of the turn. Kind of like if you played baseball, you know, when you're running to first base, if you're gonna go to second base, you would take like an arc outside of the first baseline. That way you can make a nice smooth curve and run across the first baseline, and then continue your momentum throughout that running path. And so that it's kind of a similar thing with the bike here. So if I'm going to turn left, I'm going to kind of go right first and then lean myself over to the left. Okay. Okay, so hopefully that outside perspective helped show a little bit more about what I meant. I'll keep in the fails too, because as you saw, I failed a couple times. Show you how to put your foot down if you fail like that. I was trying to show off a little bit. I've tried to do them before where you lean like really far over, get it nice and tight. But hopefully that helps. As you did see, as one final note before I finish this off, is that you want to be covering that rear brake. I should have mentioned that at the very beginning. You need to be covering that rear brake when you do this, because while the throttle and clutch is your main mover, your brake is what gives you that control, right? So if I start to go a little too wide, tap that brake, easy, just slows me right on down. This rear brake is super important. It gives you like a perfect level of control that you need. It slows you down. You can get your turns nice and tight. Look how tight I'm going here. See? Perfect. So hopefully this was a helpful instructional video. I hope you guys learned something. I hope my teaching was helpful to some degree, right? But anyways, thank you guys for watching. Thank you for tuning in. If you enjoyed it, consider giving it a like. Consider a follow on the channel. I try to make videos like this instructional. But yeah, thank you guys for tuning in. We will catch you in the next one. Peace.